if you've ever had that feeling when you launch something and it just works, where everything just clicks, the timing feels perfect, people show up, that's not just luck. That is transits. And in this episode, I'm going to show you how to use that transit timing so you can plan your launches, your visibility, your offers around these specific windows instead of just hoping that you get lucky. So what are transits? Well, transits are what's happening in the sky right now. The planets are always moving, and as they move, they interact with your chart. As I've said before, the planets are not acting on us though, they're reflecting us. So whatever they are interacting with in your chart is reflecting the cycle that you're in, the timing that you're in right now. So you can think of it a little bit like the weather, though you cannot control the weather, but you can check the forecast and plan accordingly, right? If there's a storm coming, you don't go out in the boat. If it's sunny and clear, that's when you set sail. So transits are the cosmic weather for your business. They're going to show you when it's go time for a launch or when things are aligned for your launch to flow more easily. They're going to show you when you should wait. They're going to show you some high visibility windows and when you can focus more behind the scenes or when you might want to pull back a bit and focus on things behind the scenes in your business or those foundational things in your business rather than pushing forward with something else. Now, there are fast moving and slow moving transits. We've got fast moving transits that are pretty much happening daily, like the moon changing signs. We've got Mercury, a fast moving planet, Venus. These are planets that are moving through your chart in days or weeks. The moon is changing every couple of days and Mercury is moving in kind of alignment with the sun most of the time. This is good for short-term timing, like when to post, when to send an email, that kind of thing. Then we've got slower moving transits like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. These are moving through your chart over months or years. And they're the big ones. They're the game-changing transits. And you're not going to feel those so much on a day-to-day level, but they are going to impact weeks, months, or years of your life. For business timing, we care most about transits like Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. Those are the ones I love to look at, but also Saturn. We're also going to look at Saturn because Saturn can tell us where some big changes are coming for us or where we need to slow down and really refocus ourselves or restructure something in our business. So let's talk about the high visibility transits to watch for. Let's break this down. Jupiter transits. Jupiter is the expansion planet. It is the planet that is related to expansion, wisdom, visibility even, and exploration. It's also the planet that's related to growth and opportunity. So wherever Jupiter goes in your chart, that tends to be where things expand. That is not always a good thing because it can also expand things we don't necessarily want it to expand. But for the most part, we want to pay attention when Jupiter is moving into places in our chart where it can expand good things, right? And Jupiter is going to spend about 1 year in each sign. And therefore, if you use whole sign houses like I do, 1 year in each house of your chart. So that's going to activate different themes for you each year. And it's also going to activate specific points in your chart. So for instance, we have, at the time of recording this, Jupiter is in Cancer, one of its favorite places. It is lifted up or exalted in Cancer. And so if you have planets or points, important points in Cancer, when Jupiter comes through, you might find that you have a really spectacularly helpful moment when it comes to whatever that planet represents in your chart as well. So if you have Jupiter come into contact your Venus, you might find that you have a particularly good time for relationships, be that personal or business relationships. It could also be that it's a really great time for a rebranding project or for releasing something related to Venus in your chart. And I also want to talk about Jupiter through specifically the business houses or the work houses, and Jupiter through your 10th house of reputation, public reputation, of career, of business, of the thing that you're known for. This can be a really helpful time. If you know you're having Jupiter through your 10th house, this is the transit for visibility. This is the transit for expanding the thing that you're known for, getting noticed for the thing that you're known for. So when Jupiter moves through your 10th house, opportunities may come your way with respect to your work in the world. People notice you. This is your time to go big, right? If you're going to do a major launch or step into a bigger role, a bigger vision in your business, this is when you do it. So think about that. If you understand the houses, if you understand your chart, I have many other videos which explain the houses of the birth chart and how they relate to your business. And also I have other videos on Jupiter as well and how to kind of work with that energy. But that's where you might want to look at, is there a transit of Jupiter in my 10th house? This is a great time for me to do something exciting in my business. Jupiter through your first house, which is your house of personal identity and your brand, your business brand, your personal brand, that can also be a great time to launch something. It could be a great time for a rebrand. It is a magnetic time. People are drawn to you. Something about you is expanding. Something about your brand is expanding at that time. It can be a really good time to put yourself forward for new opportunities, to launch something with your name on it, with your brand on it, something like that. Another work house, a house related to your work in the world, is the second house. This is the house of revenue, the house of money and resources and how you make and accumulate them. So Jupiter through your second house can be really encouraging because it can bring up opportunities to make money, opportunities for additional streams of revenue, opportunities to make more money with what you've got. Money flows more easily, potentially, when Jupiter goes through your second house. Now, there are caveats to that, and there are caveats to every Jupiter transit. It depends on how Jupiter is working in your natal chart as well. Is it in a really strong position? Is it able to function at its best in your natal chart, or does it need some extra help? In any case, Jupiter through the second house is something that you would look at for if you're thinking about expanding your revenue, putting your prices up. That kind of thing it's a good thing to do. You're getting a bit of extra support for those kinds of activities when Jupiter's transiting that second house. You might also be launching a new offer at that time, focusing on revenue generating activities, the ways in which you create resources and support yourself. Another work house, or a house of, I guess, visibility, is the fifth house. And this is the house of creative expression. So this is where your creativity shines. The fifth house is also related to advertising and that kind of thing as well. So it can be a great time to launch something that you're really passionate about when Jupiter goes through the fifth house. Create something new, express yourself in a new or bigger way. I also want to just touch on the sixth house. If you have Jupiter through your sixth house, now the sixth house is related to work, service, and health. And in business, particularly, we think about the sixth house as being related to work and your service to the world. And it may also be related to your systems, your processes, and that kind of thing. And when you have Jupiter going through the sixth house, it can mean you have a big focus on expanding your systems, processes, and, how you work. It can be a very big year of work for you because, as I said, Jupiter expands wherever it goes. So this is where we can get that kind of double edge of Jupiter, in that it can expand a workload. It can expand the things that you need to get done, but it can also provide an opportunity for you to really streamline, or for you to learn more, to gain wisdom about how to work in a way that is better for you. So there can be a really good silver lining to that, maybe cloud of doing more work when Jupiter comes through your sixth house. Now, Jupiter isn't the only transit that matters. It's the one I'm going to look to for some growth opportunities. and I have a whole episode on Jupiter and growth opportunities I will link to in the show notes. There are other transits to consider too. What is Saturn doing? What is Venus doing? What is Mars doing? I want to give an example of what a Mars transit might look like for you, because it's one of the closer planets, and it can move a little bit more quickly, but it can also go retrograde for quite some period of time. So it is really important to get to know Mars in your chart and get to know when transiting Mars is coming through, because Mars is our planet of energy, of motivation, of drive. It is really related to how we show up in business. And if Mars is going through something tricky in the sky, or if it's impacting our chart in a trickier way, then we might find we have less energy for doing the things that we normally do in business. Thinking about Mars, if you have, for instance, Mars in the 10th house, again, we're going back to these kind of work houses or these places of more visibility in the chart. If you have Mars in the 10th, you might feel really inspired and encouraged to get a lot done when it comes to your work and your work in the world, your visibility, your mission in the world might get a real boost at that time. If you have Mars in the second, you might find the second house of money and resources and that kind of thing. You might find that you feel that there's a real push to put out more offers, to make more money. Does that actually translate to you being able to make money with Mars in the second? Would depend on the condition of that house and the condition of Mars in your chart. Because if Mars is really well positioned for you, it can really help you to make money. But if it struggles a little bit, you might find that when Mars goes through the second house, you end up spending more money, or you end up having to cut something out, because Mars is a cutting energy. It may mean that you have to cut business spending, or you have to cut an offer. Something needs to go when it comes to your resources and revenue. But when I'm looking at when is a good time to launch something, when a good time to put out an offer, I would be considering particularly where is Jupiter, where is Venus, because these are the two planets that are very helpful to us when it comes to getting visible and putting things out there. And also, where is the sun? Because the sun is literal visibility. It is the big thing and the guiding light in the sky. It is our vitality. So where is the sun, and how is that playing out for you in your chart as well? Because that is very seasonal. So what astrological season are we in? What sign is the sun in right now? And how does that work in my chart? For instance, is the sun going through the 10th house of your chart? So for me as a Taurus rising, when the sun is in Aquarius, which is, right about coming up now, sort of end of January and into February, for me, that is always a good time for the visibility of my business and for my work in the world to be more visible, because the sun is there on my 10th house, giving a little bit more of a boost to my public reputation. So look at your own chart and understand, what is the 10th house? What sign is on the 10th house? When is the sun going to be there? That could be also a good time for you, a good window for you to consider for launching something. Not only launching, but also just for you to get a little bit more light on whatever it is that you're doing. I'll just give you a quick example that was, because it's recent for me, which was when I just released my new website. I released that, or I switched it over right before the full moon in Cancer, which happened in January, right at the beginning of January. Now, I had been putting off this switch over for some time, and I finally realized that this was a fantastic timing opportunity for me because of the transits that were going on right at that particular moment. We had the moon was going full in Cancer, which is my third house of teaching, learning, writing, that kind of thing. It's a bit of I think of it as the email marketing house. It can also be considered a bit of the website house of your chart, of your, when it comes to your business. And the sun was in my 9th house of publishing, of expansion, of kind of putting things out in the world. So I knew that this 3rd, 9th house axis was important for me. And it was also aligning with my Mercury in the 9th house. Like the sun was on my Mercury in the 9th house. So I was looking at that specific transit of the sun to my Mercury, my planet of communication and trade, of business as being, this is a good time to put this out in the world. And I guess time will tell how successful that has been. But so far, I've had some really great feedback on the website. I feel that for me, that timing was really aligned and felt really good. And the website transfer happened really seamlessly. And it might have otherwise been quite a more complex process, but it actually happened very easily and everything was working. And yes, there are always some things to kind of work out after you've done something like, relaunch a website and transfer the domain and all that kind of thing. But overall, I think it's worked really well. And I feel set up for my year because I worked with that timing. That part of my business feels really solid. So I would encourage you to consider those things when you are timing something important in your business. Where is everything? Where are the planets in the sky? Where is everything sitting? But I do have another example from this year where I had a client who had some really great 10th house activations happening, and we did a launch, and the launch was her biggest ever launch. We quadrupled her previous time that she had launched, the results of that launch, and everything just flowed really easily. Of course, there are always some things to tweak and fix, but overall, the launch went really well. And in fact, she had a really great podcast come out perfectly timed for that launch. So it was like things did align beautifully for her to achieve the goal of that launch because we chose that timing very specifically for her. So how to use transits in your chart? I want you to look ahead to the next 6 to 12 months. If you can access some astrology software, or maybe you've got an app that you use, where is Jupiter in your chart right now? Like, we know that it's in the sign of Cancer right now. It will move into the sign of Leo in the second half of 2026. So what houses do Cancer and Leo direct for you? What houses in your chart? Is it moving through a high visibility part of your chart? Is it moving through the first house, the fifth house, the 10th house, even the second house? Plan some big moves for those windows that Jupiter is going to be through that. Like, if it doesn't mean that the entire year, if for instance, Cancer is your 10th house and we've still got 6 months of Jupiter in Cancer, that, you have to be launching or on for that entire 6-month period. What it does mean though is if you do have something big that you're planning, that you've been thinking about launching, now is a really good time to put it out there, to use this window, this 6-month window. And if, Leo is your 10th house, make sure that you're thinking ahead for the second half of 2026 and into 27. What is it that I want to get out in the world? How can I work with this energy to really give myself a bit of a boost there? So this is where you can build your launch, you can create your offer, you can get things ready for that time. And then when the window opens, you're ready to go. But if you're in a low visibility phase, which I should touch on, if you do have, a concentration of planetary energy in one of the less visible houses, like the 12th house or the 4th house, this may be a time where you really need to take a step back a little bit from the visibility side of things and just have a breather and rethink what you're doing in your business, fix some behind the scenes stuff, really focus on what you are here to achieve. And then when you come out of that phase, which with transits, that can be quite a quick phase. Like, I would say, for instance, if the sun is going through the 12th house in your chart, and that would mean, okay, maybe you are a Leo rising. Let's give Leo rising as an example. When the sun is in the sign of Cancer, that is the time where you probably just want to take a breather, do a bit of a reset, do some behind the scenes work so that in Leo season, you can come out strong, right? And the same goes for any rising sign. The sign before your rising sign, when the sun is in the sign before your rising sign, you want to take a breather, you want to reset yourself, you want to retreat a little bit so you can do the behind the scenes, the subconscious work before the sun goes into your first house of identity and personal brand and puts you out there a bit more publicly, right? Or where you feel that you've got to be a bit more on display. You need to have that reset, that reframe time. Don't force a big public launch at the time when the sun is in your 12th house. I would not advise that. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it's probably going to be a little bit more tricky and you're going to feel a little bit less like showing up for it. Save the big visibility pushes for the high visibility transits is what I would recommend there. So here's what I'm curious about. Have you ever had a launch or a project that felt perfectly timed, like everything just flowed? Tell me about it in the comments. I would love to know. Or the opposite. Have you felt like you've had something that ended up feeling really forced or like you were swimming upstream? Drop a comment and let me know. I want to hear your stories. Okay, so now you understand your go time windows, something about your go time windows. I cannot cover all possible transits in this episode, but I want you to get a feel for what transits we might be looking out for when it comes to your business opportunities, launch timing, that kind of thing. The next technique we want to talk about is progressions. So in the next episode, I'm going to go deep into progressions, those 2 to 3 year internal cycles I've mentioned before. This is what explains why I went quiet for almost 2 years, or I went much more quiet for a couple of years, and why I'm feeling that I can come back out into the world now. I'm going to show you particularly how your progressed moon moves through your chart, what each progression cycle might feel like in your business, what to look for in your progress chart, and how to use that information to plan your next year or a couple of years in business. So if you want to understand your progression cycle and stop forcing that visibility again when you're meant to be in retreat, make sure you watch the next episode. You'll start to see how transits and progressions work together to help you find those really special pockets of timing for your business. And then with the following episode, we're going to tie it all together with perfections, and that adds just that extra layer to this whole conversation. So make sure you are subscribed, make sure you're liking this content if it's vibing with you so that you don't miss a thing. And if you want personalized guidance on your business timing, if you want to know where your progress moon is, if you want to know what transits are at play for you in 2026 and how to plan your year around them, book a cosmic business strategy session with me. Head to sophiapalace.com/services and we can map out your complete timing system for the year. All right, I'll see you in the next one.